I'm very happy that I'm going to be introducing the first 4 readers tonight in creative nonfiction, and it has been a joy to advise their theses, and I've learned so much about the world, and I hope that you learn a lot tonight as well. So to begin, Liz Granger. Liz Granger's thesis is an unconventional love story between a young woman and a country. In her essays, we learn how, as a high school exchange student from Nebraska, Liz fell in love with the people and land of Uganda. She has since returned to Uganda multiple times, including as a Fulbright Fellow intent upon researching a very specific topic, that is, the impact of sanitary napkin donation campaigns upon women's lives, local entrepreneurs, and the very landscape of this country. In the course of attempting her research, Liz gets to see beneath the surface of many stereotypes about Uganda, known primarily in America through its complicated military history as a land where dictator Idi Amin terrorized his people and the raid on Entebbe riveted the world. However, through Liz's lyrical essays, readers at UNCW have been introduced to the much more complex reality of 21st century Uganda, as Liz describes her relationship with the resourceful woman working as her maid, who dreams of becoming a fruit juice entrepreneur, to her host family's growing fortunes as their son rises through the ranks of PepsiCo. It is my hope that once Liz finishes her thesis, readers across America will be able to read these essays as well and learn to see Uganda through a more complex lens. Please join me in welcoming Liz Granger.
Really, thanks. That was awesome. It's hard to make a book live up to that introduction. So thanks. So yeah, this is like the moment for an MFA student that is kind of like the Oscars, and by that I mean it's the moment that when you're biking around Wilmington that you fantasize about. And in my fantasy, I announced that, like, surprise, I have a book deal. But I don't. But I do have the Oscar-worthy long list of thank yous, so bear with me. But I wanted to thank Clyde Edgerton, I don't know if he's here, but for proving that passion equals the fountain of youth, and Philip for showing me how much information can be conveyed in a scene. I know David's not here, I wanted to thank him too. Mainly, I wanted to thank you for keeping the faith that this could be a good book, and your patience as it continues to be in process. Beth Staples, I wanted to thank you for your friendship and to say this phrase, that you are the stealthiest leader. Can you hear me okay, by the way? Okay. Emily, I wanted to thank you for improving the quality of the things that you touch and for teaching me to be a better teacher. Annalena, for remembering that wildflowers are key to the workplace. Megan and Lisa for being the brains behind the operation of our program. My parents for being here, for reading to me as a kid, and for encouraging me to write, even though it's kind of a financially foolish decision. Max, thank you. You kind of bear the brunt of how long this all takes. To my Pub Lab ladies, to my friends, especially Jane, and to Jane for this amazing broadside. It's quite menstrual, and I can't tell you the joy it brings me to see everyone in this room holding an actual sanitary pad in their hands. So, please. Yeah, so Meili just did a great introduction to my work. It's not really necessary to say, but my book is about, people believe that girls drop out of school when they have their periods in Africa, and the story on the ground is a little more complicated than that. So. And in this piece, I'm attending a conference in Chicago. I found the Cause Marketing Forum during the 6 months that I boomeranged back in with my parents in 2012. In their Omaha home, I wore a snowflake-printed fleece onesie almost constantly, night and day, for months. At first, I wallowed legitimately. I was recovering from malaria. That November, I developed a doozy of a case. I'd run a fever of 104.5, drifted in and out of consciousness for 6 days, and barely been strong enough to tote my carry-on bag through Schiphol on the way home. I'd just returned to Omaha from Uganda, where I'd just spent almost a year researching one of the things I care about most in the world, sanitary pads. By my parents' fireplace, my feet toasty in their footed pajamas, I continued the research that I had started abroad. I scoured the internet. Sanitary pads were being sent to Africa in unprecedented numbers by citizens and corporations. Politicians promised pads to their constituents. Producers advertised that their pads could cure glaucoma, incontinence, AIDS. Just stick a pad to the bottom of each of your shoes, a woman said in an infomercial. They will help you walk again. I combed poor English language translations of local newspapers. Weren't Procter & Gamble trained faux nurses prowling maternity wards in West Africa, telling new mothers that disposable diapers were essential to their baby's health? Isn't this like what Nestle once did with infant formula? Sanitary pads seemed like a scapegoat, or the opposite of a scapegoat. A white elephant? An excuse for everyone to do what they wanted to do anyway. Politicians wanted to get elected. Businesses wanted access to a vast new market. The field was wide open in Africa for recession-proof goods. Necessities like toothpaste and soap and sanitary pads that people keep buying even during economic hardship. Eventually, my parents encouraged me to move back out. It did appear, after all, that I spent every day on the internet, wearing pajamas. And who knew whether or not I was binge watching puppy videos? Sometimes I was. My dad used the word wallowing and the words almost 30. I was 26 at the time. And soon I found myself back in Chicago at a conference, at a fancy hotel in the financial district, near the Brooks Brothers and a straight razor barber shop. At this conference, I wore a custom corporate polo. My shirt, size small, made in China, and embroidered with the logo of the conference host, the Cause Marketing Forum, an organization whose tagline was, "Do well by doing good." The Cause Marketing Forum billed itself as the premier event for cause marketing, which, as far as I could tell, was what resulted when for-profits and non-profits worked together in self-promotion. Think Massage Envy's partnership with the Arthritis Foundation, JetBlue, and the Wildlife Conservation Society. These days, if you don't stand for a cause, customers might turn to your competitors, especially millennials. I had discovered the Cause Marketing Forum during one of my long fireside internet research sessions in Omaha, in the onesie. And I knew one thing, the only thing I needed to know. The keynote lecture would be given by two powerful women, a Procter & Gamble executive and an Oxford University business school professor. The professor had published one of only 2 academic studies that examined the link between sanitary wear and girls' matriculation. The professor's research found that pads do help keep girls in school, but the other study had found no correlation. Despite this fact, a growing chorus of menstrual hygiene campaigns promised to help keep girls in school. Those of the Nike Foundation, the IKEA Foundation, the Rotary Foundation, the Kenyan government. I'd heard insiders accuse the professor of being too cozy with Procter & Gamble, maker of Always, the world's best-selling sanitary pad brand. P&G had donated the pads for the professor's study. And when her work later ran in an academic journal, it was published with a conflict of interest warning, noting the corporation's role in the professor's report. I wanted to spy on the relationship between the academic and the executive at the Cause Marketing Forum. I wanted to gauge the tenor of their intimacy. So tickets to the Cause Marketing Forum had cost about $1,000, which was over 1,000 times more money than I was making at the time. So I volunteered at the 3-day conference in exchange for free admission. I ferried swag bags to promo tables. I clipped things to clipboards. I milled about, looking knowledgeable, yet approachable. I stood along the back walls of breakout sessions. One presenter described how in the 1990s, 1/3 of Americans thought that you shouldn't sell stuff together with causes. Church and state, he had said. I thought about this sea change in public opinion, about pink KitchenAid mixers and flashlights and screwdrivers and gum, all in the name of breast cancer, about Bono's Product Red, noise-canceling headphones, tennis racket bags, lamps, guitars, cell phone cases, skateboard decks, candles, and cheese graters, all in the name of HIV/AIDS. These were the fruits of the for-profit, non-profit partnerships, the cornucopia. On the last afternoon of the conference, I stood near the tweet table. My own swag bag had grown heavy with merch, mission-driven granola bars and empowerment-minded rubber bracelets. The banquet room was abuzz with excitement for the P&G executive and the Oxford professor, the keynote. The women stepped on stage. They detailed the One Pack Equals One Vaccine campaign, in which every package of Procter & Gamble's Pampers diapers purchased in America triggered a UNICEF-administered tetanus vaccine in Africa.